And by the way, the definition of genocide is not to kill everyone in a place.
Mehdi,
you know this, right?
I do.
They don't have to kill everyone to be genocidal.
Oh, I know that. But Mehdi...
But what they've done meets many of the criteria of genocide, which is why they're in front of the ICJ, which is why some of the leading genocide scholars in the world are saying it's a genocide.
No.
Omar Bartov, Israeli Holocaust historian. Amos Goldberg, Israeli Holocaust historian. Daniel Blatvick, Israeli Holocaust. They all say it's genocide. Are they crazy? These people study this for a living, Joe.
But do you...
Not you and me.
No, I know that, and I respect those opinions, but I don't think that's the majority view. But secondly, going back to Russia...
Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, all say genocide.
Well, again...
Human rights groups, Israeli Holocaust historians, Joe Walsh. With respect.
In this video, Mehdi Hasan debates ex-Republican Congressman Joe Walsh, who is a pro-Israel figure. We'll say figure. And it gets pretty heated. I think this is a really interesting watch. This particular clip goes on for half an hour. I'm only doing the first half of it here. Not even quite the first full half. I will chime in when I think something gets missed, but it's pretty fast and furious. And then I want to know what you think in the comments. But why don't we check it out?
You have been an outspoken opponent of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, going as far as to call it a genocide. But when it comes to Gaza, you've criticized people for calling Gaza a genocide. Why is that, Joe? Why is what's happening in Ukraine a genocide, but not what's happening in Gaza, when far more people have been killed and displaced in Gaza than in Ukraine?
I think it goes to motive and intent. I think Putin is trying to kill, and he has been for 3 years, Ukrainian civilians, kidnapping Ukrainian children. His intent is to kill civilians. You and I can arm wrestle. I don't think that's Israel's intent. At all. I think Israel...
Even though Israeli government members have said far more genocidal stuff than Vladimir Putin has.
Completely. There are extreme members of Israel's government.
Not just extreme members. The president, the prime minister.
There always have been. But
the president and prime minister of the country
I know,
have said stuff that Vladimir Putin has not said about Ukraine. And yet Joe Walsh, if you said neither's a genocide, then I'd be fine. We'd move on. We'll talk about other things about Gaza. What I find fascinating is that you're happy to say genocide here, but if you say it there, you get mad. I don't get it.
Well, I don't get mad. I just think...
You do. I've seen some of your tweets.
I just think Putin's intent is to eliminate the Ukrainian people.
Based on what? His words?
Based on his actions.
Why is Israel's words and actions not the same?
Israel's actions and words. Again, you can find some, but Israel's
I could read you dozens. I'd be here all day if I started reading out all the genocidal statements from Israeli ministers.
I can find you a more history
Just a few days ago, the deputy speaker of the Israeli parliament and senior member of the Likud party, Netanyahu's party, said that the Palestinian civilians, his words, civilians, are scum, subhuman, and the women and children should be separated so that men can all be killed. That is stuff that Milosevic said. That is stuff I've not even heard Putin say. I don't hear Joe Walsh condemning that as genocide.
Well, I would condemn that, and I will condemn that statement.
That's a genocidal statement.
That is a genocidal statement. I'm saying, Mehdi, that is a very minority view overall in Israel. Oh, my God, in Israel's government and among the Israeli people.
Well, put the Israeli people to one side. There's many polls. The Israeli government consists of Netanyahu and Smotrich and Amichai Eliyahu, who said, let's drop a nuke on Gaza.
That's not the majority. You think...
That is the Israeli government, Joe. They're the people killing the Palestinians right now, creating the post-war plan to wipe out the Palestinians with Trump to get rid of them from the place. All genocidal.
Is it Israel's intent to target and kill Palestinian civilians?
100%, yes.
You believe it has. That's been their intent from day one after October 7th.
They've said it, Joe. The guy I just quoted to you, the deputy speaker of the parliament said, let's kill all the adult men in Gaza.
And
so you just put your hands in your ears?
No, I'm telling you that's a minority view. That's not the majority.
Okay, Benjamin Netanyahu said they are Amalek. What is Amalek, Joe? In the Bible, Amalek is kill everybody, men, women, children, even the donkeys. That's what Netanyahu said. I didn't hear Putin say that.
Mehdi, again, I can find extreme things that members of Israel's government has said.
Yeah, that counts as intent, and that's why they're at the ICJ, and that's why ICJ is investigating him. That's why some of Israel's leading Holocaust scholars have said it's a genocide.
If Israel wanted to exterminate the Palestinian people, they could have done it in 3 months.
That's the worst argument you've ever made in all the time I've ever. I'll tell you why. Vladimir Putin could have erased everyone in Ukraine with a nuke.
No.
Yes, you could.
Oh, God, no.
Yes, you could.
Well, with a nuke.
Yeah.
But with a nuke, then...
No, hold on. Your argument is Israel is not genocidal because they haven't killed everyone in Gaza and they could. I'm saying Vladimir Putin could kill everyone in Ukraine and he hasn't. Therefore, according to Joe Walsh's logic, Vladimir Putin is not genocidal.
A different situation in this degree. Israel is capable. From day one, they were capable.
As is Putin.
Well, only with nukes. Israel is fighting another sovereign nation with a full-on military, with the support of the world community. Ukraine.
Oh,
right?
You meant Russia, you said Israel.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Russia literally has an opposing army. Supported that.
But it could wipe it out. And by the way, the definition of genocide is not to kill everyone in a place. You know this, right?
I do.
They don't have to kill everyone to be genocidal.
Oh, I know that. But Mehdi...
But what they've done meets many of the criteria of genocide, which is why they're in front of the ICJ, which is why some of the leading genocide scholars in the world are saying it's a genocide.
No.
Omar Bartov, Israeli Holocaust historian. Amos Goldberg, Israeli Holocaust historian. Daniel Blatvick, Israeli Holocaust. They all say it's genocide. Are they crazy? These people study this for a living, Joe.
But do you...
Not you and me.
No, I know that, and I respect those opinions, but I don't think that's the majority view. But secondly, going back to Russia...
Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, all say genocide.
Well, again...
Human rights groups... Israeli Holocaust historian, Joe Walsh. With respect. What do you know that they don't know?
With respect. I'm sure it's more than Joe Walsh. But again, just to get back to Russia on this point, Mehdi, so Russia would be forced to use a nuke because Russia is fighting literally an army.
But they could, is what I'm saying. People were worried about Putin using nukes.
But a nuke then would mean the destruction of Russia. That's a whole different equation. Israel doesn't have to use a nuke, and they didn't from day one, to get rid of the Palestinian people.
But they have made life uninhabitable. It's not a hypothetical. Right now, as of right now, Gaza is uninhabitable. Donald Trump says so, the President of the United States. In fact, let me show you. I think we've got some footage. I'd love to get your response to this footage, because Gaza, over the last 16 months, have a look at the screen, has suffered an apocalyptic level of destruction. This is a recent drone video from January. 70% of the buildings destroyed. Look at that imagery. That is not an anti-terror operation. That is not just targeting Hamas. That is, look at the imagery. That is something out of, I don't even know is it a Mad Max movie? It's entirety destruction. If that's not genocidal, I don't know what is. I haven't seen scenes like that in Ukraine. Maybe in one town, Mariupol, but I haven't seen the entire Gaza Strip.
Mehdi, by every measurement of urban warfare, Israel has gone...
Please don't give me a talking point, Joe.
No, I'm not. I'm looking at that.
Respond to the footage.
I'm responding to the footage.
You don't give a damn about that.
No, I do. Don't say that. I do give a damn. I do give a damn.
I'm talking about urban warfare stats.
No, it is.
I know the stats. I can give you stats. I'm asking you to respond to that footage.
Agreed. And
entire cities and towns wiped out.
Gaza needs to be rebuilt.
That's not engaging with the footage.
No, it is.
What is your human reaction to seeing entire towns, cities, refugee camps wiped out?
My reaction is that really sucks. That's horrible. That needs to be rebuilt. But I'm not going to lay the lion's share of the blame on Israel.
The people who wiped that out. The people who chose to drop 2,000-pound bombs on civilian homes, apartments, buildings.
I'm going to lay the lion's share of the blame on Hamas for starting the war on October 7th, knowing exactly what would happen, hiding for years behind their civilians, putting their civilians in harm's way. I'm not going to blame the army.
It's a very strange argument that says they started a war knowing that would happen. So so hold on. So if I start a fight with a known gangster or murderer, and he kills a bunch of my family in response, it's my fault?
Oh.
No, seriously, the law would... It's a very strange argument. You're basically conceding that Israel was going to respond in a genocidal way. That's what you're saying. You're saying Hamas started knowing Israel would do that. That doesn't make it morally right what Israel did.
I'm not conceding that's a genocidal way.
What is that? What is that imagery in your eyes? I'm trying to understand. What is that imagery?
That is a horrible result.
That is something we've not seen in modern wars. I mean, what they've done in Gaza, other military commanders, you know this, Joe, including the US, have said, we would never do this.
But Mehdi,
the UK, the US.
Gaza is a very unusual setting for a war like this.
Yes,
I'll give you this. But we're talking about children. We're talking about Hamas that has a history of purposely provoking Israel, then hiding behind...
They would say they're provoked by Israel by an unending occupation.
I mean, to me, this is what makes this so unsolvable, right? The creation of the state of Israel displaced what we call Palestinians, right? And that began, and I am one who believes that there is a state of Israel now. It should exist. I personally think they're sort of past the point of a two-state solution. I mean, most of the Palestinian stuff has been bombed to rubble, but it would be incredible. Not under Netanyahu, that's not going to happen. But it would be incredible to have a one-state solution where everybody had equal rights, right? Where the persecuted Palestinian people, it wouldn't include Hamas, right? We'd have to figure out a way to get past the sort of long-standing blood feud that has blood soaked on both sides. But if everybody had equal citizenship and representation in the government, why couldn't it be an Israeli state that, I mean, look, I understand that's a utopian, maybe there's no way to there. But this idea of trying to make it binary, like it's their fault, no, it's their fault. Killing has been committed on both sides. Rockets have been launched from both sides. Right now, Israel is absolutely pulverizing this place that's mostly women and children. And yeah, Hamas is hiding in there too, but you can't say, look, we're persecuting a legitimate war on Hamas. And yeah, well, I mean, we feel bad about the women and children, but they shouldn't be women and children there. You're killing women and children, right? That body count counts.
But I want to ask you this question about civilians. I do want to ask you a question.
I love being with you.
No, but I want to ask you because I want to deal with actual substantive stuff.
That is substantive stuff.
No, that's opinion. I want to deal with fact.
Oh, my God.
It is opinion about who provoked who. We can get into that. I will come to that, I promise. But just dealing with this, I just want to deal with human. Because the reason I want to talk to you about the subject is because at home in the US, I see you caring about human rights, civil liberties, democracy, fascism. And then I see Israel, you're on the wrong side completely. So when I look at, for example, that destruction, I don't think you would defend that if it wasn't Israel that was doing it. Similarly, 6-year-old Hind Rajab, you always say Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. This is the great excuse for Israel committing war crimes. You have a 6-year-old girl, Hind Rajab, infamously killed in a car with her 4 cousins, her uncle and aunt, all killed by an Israeli tank that was firing at them. She makes a 911 call. Very, very tragic, horrific call. They send 2 paramedics, the Palestinians, to rescue her. The Israelis killed the paramedics as well in the ambulance. Sky News, the Washington Post have all debunked the Israeli denials that their tank wasn't in the area at the time. The UK independent investigators, Forensic Architecture, they looked at it and said that the Israelis fired 335 bullets into this car and that the tank driver had to have seen that there were children sitting in this car. How do you defend that, Joe?
I don't.
You do. I've got a quote from you that says, Israel deserves immense praise for winning this war as carefully as they can. Would you say that to the remaining family members?
No, let me finish.
Would you say that to their faces of Hind Rajab's family?
Oh, God, no. Mehdi, look, I defend the way Israel... Let me finish.
In abstract, which is why I give specific.
No,
I know how people do this. Abstract.
No.
Specific.
So let me address both.
Yeah.
I agree. Broadly speaking, I defend the way Israel has fought this war, acknowledging that, and let me finish this thought, that
Please.
Mistakes are made in every war and that there are purposeful, indefensible acts made even by the IDF and any military. And that's an example of one. And this is...
So you're agreeing then that in this war that you support, Israel has committed war crimes?
I agree. Purposeful... Yes, mistakes have been made.
No, not mistakes.
I'm not going to...
Mistake is, I shot that person, I didn't mean to shoot that person. A war crime is, I deliberately killed a civilian, which you seemed to concede for a moment, and then you pulled back.
No, hold on. I don't know that I'm going to call it a war crime.
Why?
I'm going to say, I don't know.
What's killing a child with 335 bullets isn't a war crime.
Give me the formal definition of war.
A violation of international humanitarian law, deliberately targeting civilians. What every human rights group... I mean, I could start reading to you from... I could read to you from the International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor's indictment.
Yes.
We know because he's literally charged the Prime Minister you support with war crimes.
Well,
and crimes against humanity.
I don't support that Prime Minister.
You've praised Netanyahu.
I also called for him to resign.
I know, but you've also praised him. You've also praised him.
Right. But let me get that on the record.
I'm factually accurate
2 weeks after October 7th, I said he needs to go.
And then in the 18 months since, you've praised a man who was indicted.
I've also been critical of him as well.
Indicted for war crimes.
I could care less about what the IJC said about war crimes.
You sound like a Republican of old now.
No,
you
not
do.
a Republican.
Republicans, this is what I'm saying. At home, you're like rule of law, judiciary, courts. Abroad, screw the ICJ and the ICC. Do you see how you switch from home and abroad? At home, you're Joe Walsh, the Democrat.
Still the same.
Abroad, you're Joe Walsh, supporter of fascism, anti-international law.
But you know what's great about this whole thing is it's all focused on Israel. You have for a second talked about what is.
Well, why would I? You're not a supporter of the Palestinians or Hamas. When I talk to people who support that, I ask them about that. You are a supporter of the Israeli government, so I'm going to ask you about Israel.
And
you can do whataboutism all you want. Again, that's what MAGA people do here. When you ask them about MAGA, what do? They blame the Democrats. So let's not play that game. Let's ask you about Israel.
Mehdi, it's not the MAGA game. I'm going to say yes. Israel's made mistakes. I'm going to say yes.
War crimes. I'm asking war crimes.
Israel, call it what you want. Israel.
I'm asking you to call it.
And I'm going to tell you. I don't know. I'm going to tell you.
No, Joe.
No,
I'm not going to let you run away with it. You can shout all you want. 335 bullets fired into a car with children. Is that a war crime?
I don't. You know what? Could be. Investigate it. But God damn it,
it was investigated, Joe.
This is what Hamas does all the time.
Right. Joe,
hiding behind civilians is a war crime. You know what slays me about you?
By the way, you said I see you say this all the time.
What?
Hiding behind civilians. And yet, when Israelis actually use Palestinians as human shields, you don't say anything. Last week it emerged. I checked your Twitter, Joe. You can correct me.
What?
Last week it emerged that an 80-year-old man, Israeli press reported, was being used as a human shield. They were taking him into houses, putting him in front of them, an actual human shield. Right? They were using a Palestinian man.
But
they've done that many times. Do you know they've sent? Let me finish a sentence. They send Palestinians into tunnels in Gaza. Have you condemned that as have you condemned that as a use of human shield?
Was not aware of it, and if I was aware of it, I'd condemn it.
It's all over the Israeli press.
Why are you not acknowledging that this is Hamas's policy, and this has been their policy from day one?
What I acknowledge about Hamas is irrelevant because I don't support Hamas.
Let me hear you say it.
I don't support Hamas. Do you support Hamas? Do you support Hamas?
No.
Do you support Hamas?
No.
I don't support Hamas. So that's done. Do I support Israel?
Stop for a minute.
Can I finish a sentence?
No.
Can I finish a sentence?
Not when you don't let me finish sentences.
Joe, let me finish mine. But I promise I'll let you give a long answer. I'll give you a long answer if you let me finish this one sentence. I don't support Hamas. Do you support Hamas?
No.
I don't support Israel. Do you support Israel?
Yes.
So that's what we're going to talk about. Now,
stop. No.
It's very simple. You're here to support Israel.
No, but stop. But Hamas.
Why am I talking about someone we both disagree with?
Hamas has been the governing entity in Gaza for how many years? So yes, you do need to talk about Hamas because Hamas did what they did on October 7th.
And we've condemned it.
Hamas has a history. Do you condemn? Yes. Do you condemn?
But you're not condemning Israeli war crimes. That's what I don't understand. You're trying to dodge it with whataboutism about Hamas. It's a very simple question. I can keep going. Let's play a clip here. Let's play a clip for you to watch. We got a clip of a grandmother. Here's a grandmother. Maybe you're not aware of this one. This is a Palestinian grandmother in her 50s. She's holding a child, right, in her arm. He's got a white flag. She's shot in cold blood by an Israeli sniper who's...
Mehdi, I don't know what the hell that was. That's not... How do I know?
It's a sniper who shot at a Palestinian grandmother.
Mehdi, you invite me on, you show me a clip of that, and you tell me what it is. I'm sorry, okay, I'm not familiar with that. Okay? I'd like to know what that is. I'm not familiar with that.
You know I can go through multiple examples, right? You know that. I can start reading multiple examples. The Al-Dos family in Gaza, whose apartment building was bombed. We can go through each and every example.
But where you and I will disagree is this. And I'm telling you, this is ugly, and it's horrible, and it's unfortunate.
It's war crimes.
It's not Israel's policy to target civilians. Israel has gone out of their way not to. They are fighting an opposition, Mehdi, that has a history of doing the exact opposite.
You say they don't have a policy of doing that.
And see, you won't acknowledge that. Can you say yes or no to that?
What, yes or no to?
Does Hamas have a history of doing the exact opposite? Does
Hamas has a history. Hold on.
Target Israeli civilians?
Hamas has, yes, it has in the past. For example, when I was a teenager, I was condemning bus bombings, if you remember, in the 90s, right? But hold on.
As a policy, though, Mehdi.
This is pure whataboutism, Joe.
No, it's not. It is. As a policy. That's the policy of Hamas. The governing entity of Gaza.
I'm the only one here who has condemned civilian killings on both sides. You've called it a mistake, which I find grotesque. Let me read to you about Israeli policy. This is from Haaretz last year, Israeli newspaper. You're saying you're not aware of this. Let me tell you this. An Israeli soldier relays that a senior commander asked him to shoot an unarmed man with a white flag. He said he's got a white flag. He says, I don't care, shoot him, it's an order. Another Israeli soldier told Plus 972 there were no restrictions on ammunition. We could just shoot to relieve our boredom. We don't need to explain. You just shoot. When soldiers see someone approaching, it's permissible to shoot them. We can shoot a young girl, an old woman. This is testimony from Israeli soldiers, Joe, that it's a free fire zone.
I mean, there's no easy place to stop this. I'm going to stop it here because this is about the first half of it. The second half of it continues. And, if you're interested, go check out the video itself. It's on the channel Zateo. It's Mehdi Hasan's channel. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Obviously, Israel has broken the ceasefire. And so it's a very complex issue.